Why take FPL advice from one expert when you can take advice from 100 of them? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and with the experts climbing the ranks, it's time to see what they're up to in Game Week 11. So first of all, a massive shout out to the experts that helped us out this week, all 100 of them volunteering their data to help us to make our moves this week, and it's got some really good transfer suggestions that a lot of you guys might want to make this week. Of course, guys, I should note that we are adding more and more experts to the expert community chat and mini league. So if you think that you might be an FPL expert yourself, please feel free to DM me on Twitter your team ID, and we'll consider adding you to the group as well, and you can get involved in these videos as well. Let's see what you guys are up to this week. So as an overview, we've got 40% of our experts making one transfer this week, with 11% opting to make 2 transfers this week. So as always, we're going to see a few of the experts making multiple transfers with some banked transfers, maybe taking the odd hit, with 5% making 3 or more. Just one person out of that 5% is making 4 transfers. But in general, this is not a week where we're going transfer heavy, and I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that game week 12 offers us a lot of fixture swings, and maybe it might worth being saving some transfers for the international break between game week 11 and game week 12 for any international break injuries, as well as any potential fixture swings that you might want to target. And with that, 44% of our experts are not making any transfers at all this week. So in general, most are making transfers this week, but a significant amount are not making transfers this week. So it's fine to roll this week if you want to, but still worth having a look at some of these transfer moves and see if any of these specific moves might suit you and your team. So looking through the top global picks and who the overall FPL player base are bringing in this week, we can see that actually this week, the trends between the overall player base and the experts are actually quite different. And we are seeing that the expert transfer moves are quite different to what most people are making, which is really good. I always love this. It's always a great opportunity to try and go a little bit different to the overall crowd and see if we can target any hidden gems that maybe the overall player base are missing out on, they haven't quite noticed, because the experts typically will make better transfers week in, week out than the overall player base. That's why they're the experts, of course, guys. But looking through some of these players, Wood is the #1 transfer in the world at the moment, and only a few experts are opting to bring him in this week. Salah is seeing some popularity there as well, as is Cunha. But outside of that, a few transfers in for Solanke, Isak, and Johnson, and Aina, no one's interested in him. No new transfers in for Mbermo. We'll see just how many of our experts already own Mbermo. And no new transfers for Gvardiol or Semenyo either. In fact, these 2 players in particular are actually being sold by a couple of our experts as well, which is really interesting. So overall, guys, yeah, there is some big discrepancies here. And when we get to the top transfers for our experts, you're going to see that the list is in a very different order. So maybe the priorities are slightly different to what you may have initially thought. So looking forward to sharing that with you guys. So looking through the transfers out, Calvert-Lewin is the #1 transfer out. And I think a lot of the top managers who did have Calvert-Lewin wanted to give him that last chance in the amazing fixture against Southampton. But after that, I think it's time to let go if you do still own Calvert-Lewin, unless, of course, you have other priority moves to make. Calvert-Lewin is transferred out by 11 of our experts, 56 transfer-making experts this week. So we've got a sample size of 56 with the 44 not making a transfer. So 11 of those 56 making transfers are removing Calvert-Lewin, and Calvert-Lewin is slowly being removed from the expert template, I suppose. Arguably, he is no longer part of the expert template at all. So a player to really consider removing if at all possible. Rico Lewis is another player being heavily transferred out, with the benching last week kind of maybe showing us that Lewis is not as secure as maybe first imagined. Although this one did surprise me a little bit, because in general, I think Lewis has got a good chance of starting in Game Week 11, but maybe some people have their eyes on some other defenders. As we get to the expert template part of the video, you're going to see that even though Lewis has got 9 transfers out, the majority of experts who do own Lewis do still have him, will be keeping him for this week. But some are choosing to remove him, and maybe that can be you as well. Foden is being sold by 6, as is Watkins here. Very expensive players, maybe not providing value for money at this present moment. Few more transfers out for Haaland, as he is sold by more and more experts each game week, and Gabriel, McNeil, Semenyo, Trent and Delap at the bottom of the list here are also being sold in small amounts. I think in particular, when we look at McNeil and Semenyo, these are players being sold for a very specific purpose that we will cover very shortly. So I don't think these players are automatic sells, but maybe players that you need to sell for a very good reason, which we will cover. And guys, if you are enjoying the expert videos, finding them useful for your tips, then please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing with notifications on if you want to follow along with the expert tips each week. The expert ranks are improving week on week, and it's getting to a very good position now. So I think if you continue to follow these tips, you'll find yourself in a rank that you desire very, very shortly. So let's look at the top transfers in, and it is Wolves players at the top once again for the second week in a row. We see Aït-Nouri and Cunha occupying the 2 top spots in the expert transfers in list. 14 transfers in for each of those, and both of these players are becoming very much part of the expert template now. So if you haven't got these players in already, these are probably your top 2 transfer targets. After that, we do see a couple of surprises here with some Manchester United players, and it always seems to be the case when anything changes with Manchester United. We see that the FPL community love Manchester United players and will use any excuse to get them in. And how about a new manager and some great fixtures? That seems like a pretty decent excuse to me. Fernandes on penalty, scoring 1 last week, 8 transfers in for him. And how about Dalot at 5.1 million, offering really good long-term minutes and should play advanced under the new manager Amorim when he does arrive at the club in game week 12. Strand Larsen, another Wolves player here. Yeah, it's all about Man United and Wolves players for transfers in this week. A little cheaper of an alternative to Cunha, offers slightly more, I guess, goal threat, but less creative threat, and I think Cunha is better for minutes, but Strand Larsen still could be very good value for money at 5.6 million. Mo Salah is next on this list, 4 transfers in for him as the Salah transfers continue to trickle in, with Hall, Mazraoui making up the rest of the most popular defenders to bring in due to their cheap price tags. Couple of transfers in for Wood and Solanke, but nothing too crazy. I know they're really popular among the overall player base, but the experts, well, a lot of them have these players already, and even those who don't, not that many are looking to bring these guys in. I think there's more of a focus on those Wolves attackers this week rather than, you know, Wood and Solanke. So maybe a slight shift in the way things are moving as people move towards those Wolves attackers rather than Wood and Solanke if you haven't got them in already. That's not to say they're not options though. So with that said, this is what the expert template is looking right now, and all of the most popular players position by position. And before we have a look at that, it should be said the average game week 10 score for the experts was 52.1. So let me know, did you outscore the experts in game week 10 or did you fall a little bit short? The good news for the experts is that the average current rank for them is up to 673,000, which is a real nice improvement. And I am confident that we will see this average rank go up and up every week. We do still have a few of our experts outside the top 1 million, but we also see plenty now inside the top 100,000. So lots of different managers, lots of different play styles, but overall as a group they're doing better and better. And I have to say, it looks like the experts that I've gathered for these videos are doing a little bit better than the average content creator. So maybe these videos are maybe even more useful than the general videos made by content creators. It's definitely some food for thought there. 609 is the average points total for our experts, and hopefully that will continue to climb. I'm rooting for you guys, experts. I think we can get up to the top 100k as an average rank very, very soon. I think that will be awesome. But no change for the goalkeepers for the template. We're not really going to see too many goalkeeper transfers among the top managers. Top managers generally seem to agree that goalkeeper transfers are a bit of a waste of time, a little bit of a waste of a transfer. But in the defensive area, we see a big boost from Aït-Nouri. He was already the most popular defender to own in FPL, among these top managers. He has gone from 60% to 74% owned. So he is now one of the very most owned players among top managers. He is the most owned defender. So he is a player you want to very, very strongly consider bringing in this week for that reason. Catch up with the expert squad. A drop down for Lewis, down 11%, but still owned by 43%. Gabriel, Greaves, and Alexander-Arnold also seeing slight drop-offs, all of them now below 50% owned among the experts. In midfield, well, no change for Brian Mbeumo. The 92% who own him seem to be settled on it, and the 8% who don't own him, well, maybe they're not too bothered about not owning him, but he's still the most popular player to own among the experts. Palmer, small increase here. No change for Rodgers. Small increase for Salah as we see him grow week on week, and a tiny little drop there for Semenyo. He's down to 41% owned, but Salah in 2/3 of expert squads now. I think we can probably understand why, but the big note here is that among those premium expensive players, it's actually Palmer who seems to be the player who is agreed upon among our experts is the best player to own among those premium players. And after Palmer, you supplement that with a Salah or a Haaland, who is still slightly more owned than Salah. Despite Salah increasing in ownership and Haaland dropping down 5% to 69%, we still see Haaland in a few more squads than Salah. But Cunha, big rise here. He's now in over half of expert teams. So make sure you guys are thinking about getting him in, unless you fancy being in the 46% who won't own him in Gameweek 11. Chris Wood, small, tiny little change here from 32% to 34%. He's the third most popular forward among our experts right now. And that is the expert template. This is kind of what the expert squads are looking like. These are the players indeed. So with that said, let's make some transfer suggestions. So we'll start off with those combo transfers, mostly involving trying to get Salah in. And if you are looking to get Salah in, these are the kind of transfers that the experts are making in order to do that. So Haaland and McNeil to Cunha and Salah works really well. If you have a Semenyo in your team, maybe going Haaland and Semenyo to Cunha and Salah might work quite well as well. I know it's not ideal to sell McNeil and Semenyo. They're fine players to own, but you've got to make some sacrifices somewhere if you do want to bring in Salah and Haaland, and that midfielder is probably going to be that sacrifice. But it has to be said, having this opportunity to bring in Cunha is going to be very, very nice for you guys. If you have Watkins and Foden in your team, you might be able to get Salah in that way. And it might be too expensive to get Cunha in this way, but going Watkins and Foden to Strand Larsen and Salah might work quite well for you. For those direct transfers, if you're a Calvert-Lewin owner, there's two main transfer targets for you to move him to this game week, and they are Cunha and Strand Larsen. I think that's going to be budget dependent and depending on your budget plans moving forward. If you can afford to go for Cunha and you don't need to have that cash in the bank, then go for it. If not, Strand Larsen is a very worthy alternative. Watkins to Cunha could also work quite well, even as an individual transfer, banking the cash for a future game week, maybe to upgrade one of your midfielders to a Palmer or a Saka in game week 12. Lewis is the primary player being sold for Aït-Nouri, but if you do have Gabriel and you want to get Aït-Nouri, then that could be another thing to do there. Of course, if you already have Aït-Nouri, Dalot is the second most popular defender to transfer him, so might be worth considering. And finally, Foden to Bruno Fernandes could be done if you fancy it. Bruno finding his feet with the penalty goal last week, and with some great fixtures ahead of him, can he create in this, fingers crossed, improving Manchester United team? And finally, we've got to look at some captains, and this is where things get a little bit crazy. So far this season, this is the messiest our captains page has looked. It seems like the experts cannot agree on this one, who is the best captain this week. But in general, if you have Salah, he seems to be the guy to go for. 44% of our experts are going to be captaining Salah against Aston Villa at home this game week, with Aston Villa struggling defensively against Spurs last game week, and Salah continuing to show that great form. Haaland is still a worthy captain though. He plays against a leaky Brighton team, an expansive Brighton team, with 34% of our experts going there instead. But we've got a lot of differentials today, a lot of alternatives today, and this might be a game week because Salah is captained by under 50%, Haaland is captained by under 50%. It's a good week to go different because there isn't really a player that can do significant damage to you, which is very, very nice. Solanke is the first differential to talk about here. 9% of our experts will be captaining him at home against Ipswich, and it's pretty crazy how much the opinion on Solanke has changed within just one game week. Cunha with 4% selected for captain against Southampton at home, and Burmo 3%, Son 3% if you own Son. Real nice differential there. Bruno against Leicester, 1%. Brennan Johnson against Ipswich, 1%. So we see a few actually Spurs players against Ipswich here, which is pretty interesting. And this only adds up to 99% because I couldn't fit our final differential captain on here, which is Wood, who is also captained by one person at home against Newcastle. But I don't think we want to look too much at the 1%ers. I think certainly Salah, Haaland, Solanke are going to be the big three this week. If you have Salah, I think you go for him. If you don't, probably Haaland, but that's not to say Solanke is not worthwhile captaining as well. Interestingly, it's not a straightforward case of if you captain Haaland, or if you have Haaland, you captain him. As we know, Salah's going to be at 66% ownership and is captained by 44%. So there is still, a quarter of our experts quarter to a third of our experts really, actually, despite having Salah, opting to captain someone else. So it's not super straightforward this week, but I think this gives us some good indication of where we might want to go. The expert recommendation for your captain this week is Salah. And if you don't have him, Haaland. And if you don't have either, Solanke. And you can keep working down the list that way. But that's it for our experts video today. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here, and feel free to check out another video next. Thank you so much for watching once again, guys, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.